Welcome and thank you for joining us today for ServiceOps 2024, Automation and GenAI powered IT Service and Operations. My name is Raleigh Gould and I'll be moderating today's event. Our featured speaker is Valerie O'Connell, Research Director at EMA. Valerie came to EMA with decades of senior-level experience in the effective marketing of technology. Her experience ranges from VP of Product Marketing at what was then CA to a successful run as an independent practitioner, serving industry giants such as Microsoft and EMC, as well as cutting-edge startups. And before I hand things over to Valerie, I wanted today's audience to know that today's event is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email from EMA with resources from today's event. Also, if you have any questions during the course of the presentation, feel free to log them anytime using the Q&A functionality. If there are any questions, Valerie will answer them at the conclusion of her presentation. Now, I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to Valerie O'Connell. Valerie?
Thank you, Raleigh. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And while I'm on the thank you tour, I'd like to thank the sponsors of this research and take a word to mention what sponsors do for EMA. The sponsors for this research are Big Panda, ServiceNow, and Symphony AI. Sponsors of my research are just like sponsors on television shows. They financially support the effort without impacting the content. So what you'll be hearing today are my research findings on this research effort. And I hope that if it's interesting to you, you take a look at some of these sponsors for how they can help you on your ServiceOps journey. So ServiceOps, a working definition. It's not cast in concrete. It's nothing formal. It's not like being certified. ServiceOps, a working definition I've come up with is that it's a technology-enabled approach to unifying IT service and IT operations. Why would you want to do that? For excellence and efficiency in delivering digital business services. So I say it's people-centric, technology-enabled, and management-supported. We'll mention a little later on, it tends to start as a grassroots and swiftly become management-supported. It's not the typical top-down IT initiative. So it's also common sense and practical. It's results-driven, and it produces results, which we'll talk about, and it's rapidly growing in adoption. This year, 75% of the research panel organizations have a ServiceOps initiative, either formal or informal. Just a little history on, this is the third year that EMA, and by EMA in this case I mean me, has done research on ServiceOps. I started it early in 2022 because based on conversations with IT practitioners, clients, colleagues, I had a real sense that ServiceOps was a happening thing. What I didn't know was, is it everywhere? Is it recognized? Is it formal? Is it informal? So I kind of backed into the topic in 2022. My title at that point was AI Service Automation, ITSM and IT Ops Convergence. I concluded that year by saying, and I'll repeat it because I stand by it, which made me very smart in 2022, ServiceOps will soon become the prevailing IT operational model. It's the logical product of business sense and technology combined, because AI ops, automation, and AI enable and can shape a converged model of IT service delivery and support. Well, in 2022, my research showed, yes, ServiceOps is definitely a happening thing. So in 2023, I boldly came out with Automation, AI, and the Rise of ServiceOps, just taking for granted it's out there and it's rising, and it is. And at that time, there were 78% of the respondents that identified ServiceOps as either a formal initiative or an active effort. So this year, we're just on to just mainstream 2024, ServiceOps 2024, automation and GenAI powered IT service and operations. And just for all of these years, the research panel consisted of at least 400, usually more, IT leaders in North America, EMEA, and APAC. The organizations, the size of the organizations are between 1,000 employees and 20,000 employees, pretty even distribution along there, and it's across industries. Some high-level thoughts before I get into the specific research. ServiceOps is early, but it is mainstream. And I'll say this more than once, with or without the name ServiceOps. I'm fond of the name ServiceOps. I think it makes sense. I think it will be adopted, but the concept, the efforts, the initiatives are mainstream. Anything that makes information more accurate, accessible, and easy to collaborate benefits IT ops and IT service. And service ops is absolutely that. Frictionless collaboration. These results play directly into the top IT and CxO priorities, including, I've got a laundry list here, employee productivity, cross-functional efficiency, quality of service, user experience, and the perennial favorite, cost. The service ops concepts are a natural fit with advances that are already happening. Advances in cross-functional collaboration, workflow automation, AI, automation in general, and platform adoption. I mentioned before, it often begins as a grassroots effort and then quickly becomes formalized and sponsored and budgeted. It accommodates specialization. This is a point I want to make. We're not talking about making IT service and IT operations the same. That's not true. That's not useful. IT service and IT operations are different functions. They have different charters, and there are different skill sets required for them to do their job well. However, there's no place for gaps in knowledge, conflicts, conflicting data, and processes that aren't connected. So service ops is a way to accommodate the specialization that is needed for each one of these functions without creating barriers or silos. And in fact, it can serve as a bridge where there are some of those silos. So now let's get into the research. To start with, I want to look at a couple of the trends that favor the service ops movement. Don't panic, I'm not going to read everything on this slide. What I want to talk about is that service ops addresses what I see as a fundamental disconnect out in the enterprise in general. IT is generally judged and valued in terms of the quality of IT service it delivers to the business. But most IT organizations still are organized and they define an IT service around technologies, and service ops can bridge that gap. So if we look over on the left, the chart, generally speaking, how does your organization define an IT service? And you'll see that 68% in the dark blue say that they define an IT service by a specific IT technology area, database, servers, network, etc. 32% say they define it by a business function, all infrastructure and software needed to deliver a function. So we move over to the right. I mean, if that's how you define a service, on the right, although oversimplified, how would you define the organizational principles when it comes to service availability, performance, and incident management? And you'll see in the middle there, IT is organized to align with business services, 34%. That maps pretty well to the 32%. Where we start getting a difference is 48% say it is organized along technology lines, network, application, storage, and servers. And 18% say increasingly IT is moving to a cross-functional team approach. So that's the movement, that's the direction. But currently that disconnect still exists in many, if not most, organizations where they're judged by the business service that they deliver, but they're organized around technology. And service ops facilitates the bridging that gap and moving in the direction of alignment. Speaking of moving, 64% of organizations have reorganized to take advantage of advances in AI and automation. 25% haven't reorganized, but they have greatly increased cross-functional collaboration and workflow, and 11% have just done the traditional throw more headcount at the problem. In that grouping, 80% of the CxOs say that they have reorganized to take advantage of AI and automation. And it makes sense, because why would you lock yourself into processes and organizational structures that were designed for times that didn't even have the technology you rely on today? But more about that on another day. ServiceOps maps to the top IT ops improvements. We ask, what are the top IT ops improvements goals in the next 6 to 18 months? Select 2. You see that the top one is increased use of automation, AI, and AI ops. Now, when you tell a group of people they can only select 2 and you see 50%, that means that 100% of the panelists had increased use of automation, AI, and AI ops on their top 2 list. What's interesting is not so much that that is at the top of the list, but if you look at 2023 and 2022, it was on the list, but it didn't make it into the top 3, much less the top. And I do think that GenAI and the interest there has is part of elevating the awareness of AI, but more on that later. Now, ServiceOps also maps to the top IT service improvements. When it comes to IT service, ITSM, service desk, what are the top improvements goals in the next 6 to 18 months? Again, select 2. And it's better processes for interaction with other teams, and then automation for those cross-departmental workflows. And those improvements and goals are unchanged. Now, for CxOs, their top ITSM goals are automated workflows and self-service. And 100% of the respondents who have service ops initiatives in place have an enterprise-wide approach to platform use. And just so that you understand, when we talk about platforms, what did these panelists think it meant? I define it as, for the purposes of this survey, platform is a group of technologies, usually software, frequently vendor supplied, that together form a base on which other applications, processes, and technologies can act or interact. And I think you can see, based on the premise of ServiceOps, why a platform is not only a requirement, it's part of the initiative that kicks it off and makes it possible. The next questions that I'm going to go over are ones that I've asked every year for the purposes of trending and comparing year-over-year changes. And I will tell you, there haven't been a lot of changes. As in other years, ServiceOps, the word, has unaided name recognition that's pretty high. And I think that that's partly because, as I've said before, the name makes sense. When you hear service ops, you don't have to go, service ops, whatever could this buzzword mean? You don't need to do any mental gymnastics. You've got service and you've got ops. And this year, 75% have a service ops initiative. And that's essentially unchanged from 2023. 2023, 78%. Now, these aren't the same people, it's the same profiles. But so in terms of survey work, that's unchanged. 44% report having an active formal effort to improve collaboration between IT service and IT ops. 31% say they have a service ops team, and 14% have no formal effort, but they have increased collaboration. And 11% say never the twain shall meet. Just a word on service ops teams. One of the things that I've not probed that I will in the coming year is, what do they mean by a service ops team? Is it a little SWAT team, or have they really reorganized to maximize advances? So when 31% say they have a service ops team, we don't know exactly what that means, except for that they're really paying attention. One of the reasons service ops is on the rise is not only because it makes sense, it has really great results. The impact of service ops on an organization is almost universally not only high, but very high. 96% say the impact is positive. I ask here, what impact has service ops had on your organization? And 51% say very positive. It has streamlined cross-functional processes and workflows. 25% say positive cross-functional collaboration has improved, and 20% have chosen transformative. It has redefined service excellence and business alignment. And that's telling because transformative is a pretty powerful word and statement, especially when they have plenty of other positive selections they could have made. 33% of the CxOs have chosen transformative. Interesting, in any year that we've done this, absolutely zero panelists have chosen a negative response, and negative responses were offered. They're just not showing up here because nobody chooses them. Service ops maturity, as in any IT initiative, has a high correlation with the quality of IT service delivery. And I'm not saying every IT initiative has a high correlation with quality of service. I'm saying service ops maturity. 50% of the mature service ops group, and we define that as having service ops in place for 2 or more years, they report IT service quality as outstanding, compared to 29% in the 1 to 2 year range and 18% new. So I say here that service ops is still a young initiative, with 69% of the organizations under 2 years. The top results of service ops line up with IT priorities. What are the results when service and operations are effectively unified, or service ops? Higher productivity and less wasted time. More on that in a minute. Improved end user experience, more efficient cybersecurity, faster time to find and fix problems. Now, what's not to love in that list? And the list goes on. You see, I have a little arrow next to ease of team engagement and collaboration. If you move over and follow that area, you'll see a little sidebar here from research I did earlier this year on incident management. The ease of team engagement and collaboration. So service ops is all about collaboration and engagement. That is the most challenging phase of incident management. It's the single biggest contributor to MTTR, whatever your R is. And it is a big part of the wasted T in MTTR. 50% or more of MTTR is figured to be wasted time, waiting for collaboration. 27% of a 450 panel group said that 50% or more was wasted time. And it is the second most underserved phase after post-incident wrap. And as I've said before, anybody who's spent more than 10 minutes in IT knows that after a major incident or event is resolved, everybody's first reaction is, and let's all get together and figure out how we can do this better next time. No, it's carry on. When we talk about IT service and IT ops unification, I already alluded to the fact we're not talking about making them the same thing. We're talking about making their collaboration frictionless and productive. What is the ideal level of service ops unification? 43% say it's coordinated, simplified collaboration and workflows. 39% say merge shared reporting structures, systems, and business goals. And 18% want them separate. Different skill sets requires separation. The factors that are most important to unify IT service and operations are cross-functional processes and workflows. That's kind of, you wouldn't need a research to figure that one out. Shared and accessible data, organization and management support, shared objectives and metrics. If nothing says let's not cooperate better than having different objectives. When two teams get together and they each want to accomplish something different, friction and conflict and lack of efficiency are natural results. And service ops looks to obviate those issues. Some of the top ways that IT service and IT ops collaborate using automation and AI are: number 1, IT asset management; number 2, GRC. Then you see a box, and that box is 4 things that are tied for 3rd place: incident response, collaboration, security, and cross-functional workflows. I note here that only 3 percentage points separate the top answer, IT asset, from that three-way tie or four-way tie, whatever. Huh. What changes are most important to make for service ops effectiveness? Workflows to bridge dev, IT ops, and ITSM teams, almost tied with more real-time context, discovery, dependency mapping, IT asset, and CMDB. When we're talking, remember we talked about that fundamental disconnect. When IT ops and IT service are looking to restore IT service to the business, nothing's more important than context. What's going on? What's included? What are the dependencies? And that's also an area where many organizations fall short and have great room for improvement. So we talked about what factors, what changes, what technologies are most important to unify service and operations. Workflow automation and a platform for enterprise-wide visibility and action, followed then by AI, shared knowledge workspace. In 2023, I mentioned, so that was last year, workflow automation and an enterprise-wide platform were also first and second, but AI, ML, and analytics were in last place on the list. So they were on the list, but they were in last place, and they've jumped up to being in contention for the top spot. Automation is a high priority that's mandated by the C-suite for 63%, and it's a departmental initiative for 29%. And that's a whole separate research on what are the differences and the impacts and implementation. But it is primarily an enterprise-wide initiative. AI is a strategic enterprise-wide initiative for 67% of the organizations, and it's pretty evenly split between mature and early, and it's departmental for 31%. For 48% of the organizations that we talked to this year, automation and AI are equally important, but when there is a difference, automation does have a slight edge. One of the reasons that service ops is growing in depth and reach is because it casts a wide net. Even though the initial focus is between IT service and IT ops, the benefits quickly ripple out across the enterprise. Which areas or use cases benefit most from coordination of service and ops? Employee productivity, cloud management, cross-functional workflows, incident management, and on down the list. Which teams other than service and operations benefit most from coordination of service and ops? And you see here pretty much a who's who of IT, starting with security and DevOps. So it benefits far across the enterprise. All right, so it benefits the enterprise, it benefits the other groups. How does it impact the individual practitioners, the IT service agents, and the IT operations engineers? So we asked that question. You see, as answered by the IT service panelists, their top answer was it increases productivity, less wasted work, followed by better service to users, faster and more accurate. Over on the right, we asked the same question as answered by the IT ops panelists. Increased productivity again, less wasted work. But their second place is cost savings. We can support more users with the same staff level. And then both groups at almost the exact same percentage say that service ops gives them a better work environment, less stress and friction between teams. So I think this matters too. Service ops is enterprise-wide benefits and it's personal benefits. And as I've said so often, it makes sense to the people doing the actual work. We know from experience that service ops tends to grow, gets more funding, it has a deeper reach, more expansive influence across the enterprise. So what statement best describes the reason for service and operations to increase collaboration in your organization? 33% say success. We've had good results, so we keep expanding collaboration. Makes sense. Success breeds success. You have something good, you want more of it. 28% say senior management, C-level, is driving collaboration for efficiency and cross-cutting. And then you see necessity. The volume of work is impossible to handle without collaboration. And then common sense. Collaboration is a natural result of workflow automation capabilities. So it's a natural outgrowth of advances that are already being put in place. And if you combine them, you see that ServiceOps just makes sense. And as I've mentioned before, it makes sense to those who are practicing it. 44% of the mature service ops group, which we defined as having service ops in place for more than 2 years, expand because of success. Okay, looking at time, doing well. Moving on to AI and GenAI. We asked if AI could do one thing really well, what would have the biggest positive impact? And the leader is proactively respond to incidents before they impact users, easy and seamless team communication and collaboration, and have accurate business context and dependencies in real time. Now, in reality, how is predictive AI insight used for proactive action in your organization? Not so much automation. Only 31% say predictive insights trigger automated proactive actions. 35% say predictive insights are used to increase human effectiveness. And 27% say proactive actions are taken only with human oversight. I'll just step outside of this research for a minute and say that for years, myself, 7 years here, doing research with EMA, we always find this to be true, that while people talk about the autonomous enterprise, at the end of the day, most people like their automation and AI combination, powerful as it is, they like it with a human touch. Because against all odds, people do still tend to trust people more than computers. So we also know that when people put in AI and automation, the results are great. The cultural ability to consume and maximize use of these technologies grow, but there's always a human somewhere in the loop. Turning now to GenAI. We said there's been a lot of excitement and talk about generative AI and ChatGPT. Where does it stand in your organization? 31% say we're in the research phase, exploring its practicality and use cases. 29% say we have one or more proof of concepts or pilots underway. 28% say it's in production now. We're planning to expand its use. I just want to say a word here about in production. I say note here that production, we didn't define what that meant, and that's an oversight on my part. So production could be anything from an engineer has genned up a couple scripts that they're actually using in production. It could be that simple and ad hoc, all the way to a vendor supplied full suite and platform. So that's a topic that's worth pursuing. But one thing that's very clear from these results is that almost everybody is very interested in GenAI in IT. We ask, what is a realistic time frame for GenAI to be mainstream in production for incident response in your organization? And the reason I chose incident response was I wanted to anchor the answer and the question in something specific so that people aren't just floating around going, oh, I think we'll do it next week. No, I'm thinking about something that's pretty universal, which is incident response. So 19% say a few months from now, 32% say about a year, and 35% say roughly 18 months. So I think most people are talking about a year to 18 months. So everybody's eager, everybody's looking at it. What is the main reason your organization might delay implementing GenAI or ChatGPT? Now, this is the third research effort I've done asking this question. So the answers no longer surprise me. But the first time, it did surprise me because I thought the main reason was going to be the newness, unproven value fear, wrong information, and hallucinations. Nope, those are way down at the bottom. The absolute top are regulation, data privacy and compliance issues, and security. And this has been consistent over 3, so we're talking thousands of respondents. Which approach to Gen AI is your organization likely to take? General purpose, vendor supported, 17%. Industry specific, vendor supported. Modified for our organization, a combination of vendor and internal. Now, 22% say specific to our organization, internally developed. I don't think that at the end of the day, when people have more experience, that is going to be the primary, people inventing Gen AI from scratch. I do think that all of the above is going to be more likely, but we'll see. There will other research efforts along the way. If Gen AI can accurately automate or transform a function, which capabilities would have the most value to your organization? And I'm not going to go through all of these, but you see there's a long list, no shortage of use cases. Real-time identification of business context, business dependencies and impact, identification and engagement of people and resources needed for action. Again, these play to ServiceOps strengths, and on down the list, knowledge base, triage and routing of tickets. Which areas are the most likely candidates for Gen AI adoption in your organization? This is almost like a 10-way tie. It actually reminds me of little kids making up their Christmas list. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. There's absolutely no shortage of likely candidates. Real-time assistance for service desk agents, knowledge-based generation, service desk routine requests and problem, business context, incident response, and on down the list. This kind of answer, yes, 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 good, 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 is part of the reason why I so frequently ask question, what's the one or what are the top two? Because that makes people go like, oh, okay, and get to their most important points. We asked a couple specific use cases, hypothetically. What would be the result if it only took seconds to do all of the following? Automatically generate an accurate alert summarization, identify possible root cause, and identify and engage the correct responders. 58% foresee that if you could do that, it would have a 50% or more reduction in MTTR, whatever your R is. 12% of those foresaw a 75% reduction in MTTR or more, with 46% saying around a 50% reduction. The role of Gen AI in knowledge base is an obvious one, and it could be a very powerful one. If knowledge base articles could be automatically and accurately generated and updated, and here's the catch, and easily searched with normal everyday language, what percentage of incidents, tickets, and cases might be deflected? A lot. You see here that 36% say around 50%, 35% say more than half, and 11% say 75%. So I say 82% foresee Gen AI's use as resulting in a very high deflection rate of 50% or more. What role do you see AI and Gen AI having in service ops? And now I've redefined it again, collaboration between IT service and operations in your organization in the next 6 to 18 months. And now you start seeing some separation, which is really just human nature instantiated in organizations. We go between bullish and cautious. 30% say it will have very high adoption, greatly increasing the efficiency of both teams. Go, go, go. 28% say it will be rolled out in phases as we gain experience and trust. And 22% are just straight up cautious. We're going to be cautious if we use it at all. The last question I asked was, what do you think will be the biggest challenge to Gen AI adoption in your organization in the next 6 to 18 months? And all of these, I think, are related. Developing organization-wide policies and guardrails for compliance and data security. Now that maps up really well. Remember, we asked what are the top obstacles to adoption? It's governance, data privacy, and security. So developing policies and guardrails that are enterprise-wide are going to be top of mind for 26%. Establishing clear roles and responsibilities for introducing into production, 22%. And 20% say effectively layering humans, systems, and processes. I think that's going to be the main focal point as people gain more experience, good, bad, outstanding, and unexpected. How do you layer humans' existing systems and develop those enterprise-wide guidelines, especially when I'm going to jump back just for a second. I forgot to mention on the bottom, 20% said that differing teams will adopt GenAI according to their needs. That's going to be a very difficult element to deal with when you're trying to develop enterprise-wide guidelines, when your major concern is governance, risk, security, etc. So anyway, those are the major challenges, which leads me to my closing thoughts. I said before, ServiceOps isn't a formal, certifiable IT discipline. It is a movement and it's a concept. And ServiceOps can serve as a conceptual framework that can centralize or harness and direct enterprise initiatives investments that reach far past IT service and IT operations, which is the starting point. That concept gives direction and structure to some of the current drives and impulses that are out there and that are already in place, cross-functional workflows and automation. And the findings in this annual research can be used to give shape and substance to ServiceOps initiatives or to initiatives that would further the goals and the capabilities of ServiceOps. And it validates those initiatives as essential elements of modern business and digital transformation. And last of all, I mentioned that ServiceOps elevates casual collegial cooperation, which there's nothing wrong with casual and collegial cooperation, but it elevates that to a business impacting collaboration that's intentional and that has results that are quantifiable, and I will add, important, far-reaching, and long-lasting. And that's it. I have finished with time to spare. Nobody's ever gotten mad at having 15 or 20 minutes added back to their life, but also we do have time for questions. I will direct you again to the sponsors, Big Panda, ServiceNow, and Symphony AI. If you have any questions or would like to talk about anything further, I am very easy to find. My name is Valerie O'Connell. I work at enterprisemanagement.com. Oh, look, it's misspelled there. I did that. Anyway, V. O'Connell at enterprisemanagement.com. Feel free to contact me. Easy to find, easy to deal with. Raleigh, do we have any questions or is everybody free to go?
We did not receive any questions, so that will conclude today's event. As I mentioned, you will be receiving a follow-up email from EMA with the on-demand playback. So I hope you'll check that email out. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.